Hello and good morning. The truth is our priority and we give justice to your curiosity. The latest news spotted only here on Day to Day News, giving you the latest and most credible news for today.
When we think about a religion, a few things might come to mind. Maybe the concept of a god or other supernatural beings, sacred scripture that's often believed to be divine in origin, organized religious authorities and an institutional hierarchy, and a set of rituals and other religious practices, such as prayer and pilgrimages.
We will talk about Confucianism.
Confucianism certainly satisfies some of these criteria. Confucianism is centered around a system of values that stresses morality, deference to one's elders, humaneness, and a sense of justice.
Since we will talk about one of the most influential religions in the world, we will talk about Confucianism, right? But do you guys know what Confucianism is? Well, Confucianism is one of the most influential religious philosophies in the history of China. And do you know that it has existed for over 2,500 years? Well, it is concerned with inner virtue, morality, and respect for the community and its values. Now we will proceed and talk about the founder of Confucianism. Confucianism was founded by Confucius, Confuce, Confuzi, or Master Kong, a Chinese philosopher of the spring and autumn period, 772 to 476 BCE. Confucianism is a philosophy developed in the 16th century BCE, China, which is considered by some a secular humanist belief system, by some a religion, and by others a social code. The broad range of subjects touched by Confucianism lends itself into all three of these interpretations depending on which aspects one focuses on. The philosophy is based on the belief that human beings are essentially good, that they are engaged in immoral behavior through lack of strong moral standard, and that adherence to an ethical code and rituals which encourage it enables one to live a productive and tranquil life of peace, which translates to a strong, ethical, and prosperous state. And that will be all. Thank you. As we are now done talking about the founder of Confucianism, Jessa Palawan will now talk about the sacred of Confucianism. Jessa?
Thank you, Mona. So let's discuss the sacred of Confucianism. What is the sacred text of Confucianism? There are four sacred texts of Confucianism. First, the doctrine of the mean. What is the doctrine of the mean? The doctrine of the mean, or Zongyong, is one of the four books of classical Chinese philosophy and a central doctrine of Confucianism. The text is attributed to Zizi, the only grandson of Confucius. It was originally a chapter in the Classic of Rites. So the second one is the Great Learning. What is the Great Learning? The Great Learning, or Dashi, was one of the four books in Confucianism attributed to one of the Confucius' disciples, Zhengzi. The Great Learning had come from a chapter in the Book of Rites, which form one of the five classics. It consists of a short main text of the teachings of Confucius transcribed by Zhengzi and then 10 commentary chapters supposedly written by Zhengzi. The ideals of the book were attributed to Confucius, but the text was written by Zhengzi after his death. So the third one is the Analects. What is the Analects? The Analects, also known as the Analects of Confucius, the sayings of Confucius or the Lunyu, is an ancient Chinese book composed of a large collection of sayings and ideas attributed to the Chinese philosopher Confucius and his contemporaries, traditionally believed to have been compiled and written by Confucius' followers. So the last one is Mencius. What is Mencius? Mencius was a Confucian philosopher, often referred to as the second sage of Confucianism, meaning second in importance only to Confucius himself. Mencius is best known for his claim that human nature is good. He has attracted interest in recent Western philosophy because his views on the virtues, ethical cultivation, and human nature have intriguing similarities with, but also provocative differences from familiar Humean and Aristotelian formulations. So that is the four sacred texts of Confucianism. I am Jessa B. Palawan. Alea, take over.
Thank you, Jessa. Maybe you know Confucius and his golden rule: do not do others what you would not have them do to you. Actually, this will be found under Analects, which, if you look closely, focuses more on the ethics of mutuality and reciprocity. Doesn't he seem familiar because karma in Hinduism is almost like this? Plus, we are taught to treat each other well if we want other people to treat us well. One of the most important beliefs of Confucianism is the Tian, or heaven, human nature, breath, fructification of names, the five constant, the filial piety, and the ancestor worship. Pero, saan nga ba nakuha ni Confucius ang paniniwala sa langit? When you have offended against heaven, there is nowhere you can turn to in your prayers. We can see that in the passage of the Analects where Confucius got the idea of heaven. But he's not much interested in the superhuman realms. Let's talk about the five constants, or also known as five classical virtues, or wuchang. These are five most important Confucian ethics mentioned in the Analect and the Book of Mencius. These include the following: Ren, or benevolence; Yi, or righteousness; Li, or propriety; Zi, or wisdom; Xin, or fidelity. According to them, you can achieve Ren by returning to Li, or the traditional Chinese rituals. This is the love for your parents and siblings or your neighbor. You can also achieve this if you avoid your envy. Yi is achieved by having a disposition in life to do good, respect the elders, be good to one another. You may achieve Li by following human relationships or rectification of names, doctrines of the me. And you can achieve Z if you understand the difference between good and evil, which is innate or natural to people to do good, according to Mencius. And lastly, Xin will be achieved when you become faithful or have isang salita. Kung Fuji believes that people who have isang salita, or who are faithful, are the people who should be trusted with important things. We can read the Book of Rites, the rituals practiced by Chinese in many centuries, like the family rituals or the four rites, which shows the ceremonies related to growth, maturity, like marriage, mourning rites, and sacrificial rituals. Speaking of four rites, we have what is called age rite, which is a sign that you are at the right age to get married. In this ceremony, a Chinese man receives a formal hat and ceremonial gown. Mourning rites, there is hair spinning, which referred to pinning women's hair. This is a funeral tradition with necessary steps. First is the public announcement, symbolic goods, and false death. And that's all about the doctrines of Confucianism. I am Alea Jane M. Pobleta. For further learning about the Confucianism, Flor-de-Lis will talk about God, Heaven, and Confucianism.
Good day, everyone, and now let's proceed with the Confucianism, Tian, or Heaven. The term Tian may refer to a deity. Deity means gods or goddesses, to impersonal nature or to both. The founder of Confucianism was a man named Kongxi. He later was known as Kongfuzi or Master Kong. One of the main beliefs of Confucianism is Tian or Heaven. So the question is, where did Confucius get the idea of believing in heaven? When you have offended against heaven, there is nowhere you can turn in your words. Analects 3.13. This is one of the passages in the Analects which shows the Confucius idea of Tian or heaven. Tian may also refer to that which is beyond human control. He believed that the Tian is analogous with moral order but dependent upon human intervention to bring its will into action. For him, the Li or ritual propriety is the way through which the family, the state, and the world may become parallel with Tian's moral order. He believed that only by performing the ancient rituals, which was done by the earlier kings, could harmony between heaven and the earth be revived. Chinese rulers were traditionally referred to as son of heaven, or what they called Tianzi, and their authority was believed to emanate from the Tian or heaven, and this was by the concept of the mandate of heaven, or also known as Tianmin. It is the divine source of authority and the right to rule of the Chinese kings and emperors. And although the ruler had been given great power, he had also a moral obligation to use it for the good of his people. If he did not, then his state would suffer terrible disaster and would lose the right to govern. And that will be all. I am Flor-de-Lis Gaston, your news reporter to the world religion that matters. Thank you.
Thanks, Fleur. Now, let's talk about the issue of oppressing women in Confucianism. Confucianism is often associated with oppressing women, whether that be subjugating women to their fathers during childhood, husband during marriage, or son during widowhood. Oppressive acts associated with Confucianism principle also include foot binding and concubinage. What are these two common issues in oppressing women? First, foot binding. What is a foot binding? Foot binding was a practice first carried out on young girls in Tang Dynasty to restrict their normal growth and make their feet as small as possible. Considers an attractive equality, the effect of a foot binding were painful and permanent. Next is concubinage. What is concubinage? Concubinage in China traditionally resembled marriage in that concubines were recognized sexual partners of a man and were expected to bear children for him. Unofficial concubines were of a lower status and their children were considered illegitimate. In 1949, the communists banned the practice, saying it was a sign of bourgeois decadence. But now, after 2 decades of market economy, concubines have returned. The ernai, or meaning second wife.
Thank you, viewers, and thank you, everyone. The truth is our priority, and we give justice to your curiosity. The latest news spotted only here on Day to Day News, giving you the latest and most credible news for today. I am Mona Leia May Pinamorga, and see you in our next Day to Day News.
Thank you.